Name's Nathan Foy, hello. This is Hurricane Matthew, our second hour of coverage this evening. Nice of you to join us. If you've got any questions, by the way, we are more than happy to answer whilst we're on the air. Myself and the Skype team who are with me right now. The current list of people are as follows: David, Craig, Devon, I believe he's took a break, and Strat. Good evening.
Good to be here for the second hour, Nathan, and it's been reported Hurricane Matthew threatens Haiti with dangerous rainfall in the range of 380 to 630 millimeters ahead as it tracks north.
Yeah, massive amounts on the way, and it's looking more assured, unfortunately, that the storm is going to deliver huge amounts of rain over Haiti. Initially, we may well have been hoping that it would move a bit further west towards Jamaica, unfortunately, but either way, you know, somewhere is going to get a very bad deal out of this storm.
Do you think it's going to change or slow down and change direction?
Well, slow down could be the worst thing it could do. As far as changing direction, if by that you mean a 180, certainly not. If it to turn maybe towards the northwest, quite possible. West is very unlikely. East is also very unlikely. It's definitely going to continue to have a northward motion towards it. There may be some temporary, if it stalls again, temporary southward motion or temporary easterly or westerly, but overall it's going to be a northerly movement for the foreseeable future, possibly all the way till dissipation or whatever the storm's final place ends up being. For instance, sorry?
You could argue it's moving a bit east of north, although at the same time you could say that's just track wobble.
Yeah, well, by a northerly direction, I mean more north than northwest and northeast on the compass.
Yeah.
For instance, it's not going to go into the Western Atlantic and do an Andrew. That's not going to happen.
Good Lord.
Because some people in Florida might be thinking about that possibility, but I can assure you that that is not going to happen. Something more akin to Hurricane David could possibly happen, grazing the coast of Florida. That's the first one that springs to mind. I'm sure there's a few others. And still the Hazel possibility is sort of on the table, but not really.
Just looking at another posting, how Matthew's being received and the possible threat to Florida and further up its coast. Chance for tropical storm force wind West Palm Beach and Fort Pierce 64%, Fort Lauderdale 61%, Miami 56%. And I think it's Nassau 84%. So that's just percentages for wind. Tropical storm force winds.
Nassau, the capital of the Bahamas, 84%, you say?
Yes.
But that's in the future. Right now, this is what the storm's doing, heading towards Haiti, and it could be very bad there. We have to keep saying that because unfortunately that's the reality of it. And we're continuing to monitor the storm's intensity. And Craig, any opinions on what you think it's up to right now?
Well, what he's up to is rather alarming. I mean, I've seen only some big hurricanes of last year, but there was only one, and that was Joaquin, the Bahamas. But this one's nowhere near the scale of Joaquin. I mean, Matthew's a very unpredictable storm due to its erratic track and erratic movements.
And erratic intensity.
And that as well, it going up and down like a yo-yo. And this is what makes Matthew even more dangerous, is that he's slow moving, I don't think he could go any slower because if he did go any slower, he'd literally be stopped by now. And he's that unpredictable. I don't know. I don't know what he's gonna do next. I mean, he could literally stall, turn south, which is very unlikely. But its ability that he could go even further west, which is near enough. And in my mind, doesn't matter which way he goes. You could easily make landfall Jamaica, Haiti, Cuba. Either way, it's basically a worst case scenario, and he's in that area right now.
Initially,
that's an area
in the last hour, Strat was talking about how it might be curving back towards the north, and it certainly looked that way, but then it just did another wobble in those latest frames, and it's back northeast again.
And there's also
that's why he's so unpredictable, because he's basically constantly changing direction. There's no happy medium with him. He's just constantly wiggling in and out of his
and it's always maintained. Sorry.
Go on, Nathan. You were speaking.
It's always maintained a fairly small eye as well, which is probably half the reason there.
Probably, yeah. That's probably got a good explanation for it.
Well, it's certainly what gives us that perception, because if it had a bigger eye with that sort of movement, it'd be less noticeable, wouldn't it?
I mean,
I think also
he's certainly, obviously, as we know, smaller eyes and small storms are very bad news, because smaller storms can rapidly intensify, and we know what they're like for rapidly weakening. And we saw that last year with small storms and small eyes and rapid weakening. And then Matthew's near enough the exact opposite. He's actually quite a large storm in the location he's in, but with a very small eye. But let alone to say that can't stop him from getting any stronger, which we hope he doesn't. But that he could. It is very, very likely that he could get stronger than 140 miles per hour.
Yeah, it's important to mention, like, in speaking about strengthening, there's actually some upwelling and growing convection right near the eye in the last 2 or 3 visible satellite frames there as well.
Yes, I've been looking at it on RAM, and I've actually been rather concerned.
There's a sort of like, Craig, there's sort of like almost 2 eye walls at this time in the northern side. The sort of outer one is the most intense. I don't know whether we could be seeing a new eye appearing before landfall, or...
Well, I've been watching it very, very closely on RAM. It's joined up to the older to the eye. I've not rolled it out for a secondary eye wall, but the way it's joined up, I think it could be the eye trying to expand. Might be. Don't know whether it's an eye wall replacement. Might be. I really need to have a look at microwave imagery to really clarify and say, yeah, it's going to do an eye wall replacement pretty soon. But an eye wall replacement at this stage in the race is very, very dangerous, because that makes the storm even more dangerous, because it makes it produce more and more convection, which is what you don't want. Microwave at this precise moment in time doesn't depict a secondary eye wall, but it possibly depicts one trying to form around the main eye on microwave. It's too soon to tell, because it might not be. It might just be it filling in what's gapped there in the microwave. But it could be an eye wall replacement. It could be the beginning of one, but it certainly doesn't look like one on microwave. Not at this precise moment in time. This is another stage in Matthew's life where it's far too unpredictable. It's too early to say. This is near enough Matthew's life, and any question saying, "Oh, where's he gonna go?" Too early to tell. Far too early.
Okay.
Yes, we could probably say he's gonna make landfall on one of the Caribbean islands, whether it be Jamaica, Haiti, or Cuba.
It would be quite some feat if it was not to make a landfall, but in saying that, it is possible for it to skirt round the coast of Haiti and Cuba, but even if that was to happen, which is very unlikely, those places would still feel hurricane force winds, no doubt.
Oh yeah, they definitely feel hurricane force, and that's something you certainly don't want to see, and let alone a full blown major hurricane hitting you. That's mean, that's the last thing you want to see, is a 140 miles per hour, maybe even stronger than that, Cat 4 heading right for you. And
one that's potentially still strengthening as well.
Exactly, potential additional strengthening before landfall. And just to note that the supposed join up of I there in Matthew has now been overshrouded by high convection, meaning that he's doing what he did last night. His eye could be about to be overhung by high convection. He did that earlier today, but his eye cleared out very, very quickly and very, very well, and became really well defined. Who's to say that he might be trying it again just to make it even more defined? But microwave imagery is needing an update. Was that the
Well, we're just past 5 on the east coast of the US. If you've just joined us, whilst we're live, you can send us a message at any time on the comments section. I know that sometimes the comments stream goes pretty quickly, so I don't always see absolutely everything that comes in. But if you do have any questions, we'll do our level best to get them answered. And indeed, it's nice to see people replying to questions themselves, fellow viewers. It's always nice to see viewers helping viewers. Certainly gives me one less thing to do. But we're here if there are any questions that haven't been answered. And
just looking at the ocean heat content, Nathan, on RAM, it's alarmingly high for Matthew. It's alarmingly high. It's near enough at 100. I don't know what the measurement is, but it's on its scale. It's near enough at 100 on the ocean heat content scale, and
it's very deep.
The highest part of it, from what I can see, is just to the west of Grand Cayman. And you can guess if Matthew decided to try and pop a visit over there, I guess a certain team member would not be happy. I don't blame him, because no one really wants to get a visit from this hurricane, because this hurricane means business, and this hurricane is angry, and it ain't happy. I mean, really not happy.
And just about the, I just want to mention that stat that I popped out not long ago. It's been 96 hours, that's 4 whole days, of the storm being an official Category 4 storm. That's the 4th longest duration in the Atlantic this century, and the 2nd longest in the Caribbean. The others were Igor, which managed 4 days and 6 hours, so it's about to overtake Igor if it keeps a Category 4. And then, in some distance away, you have Isabel and Ivan, which it probably won't catch in that particular record. Who knows where we find these records from, but that's that one. Craig, I don't know if you want to remind everyone what the warnings are according to the National Hurricane Center. It's a good thing to keep people regularly updated. People flow in and out of the stream.
Get that. Yeah, we'll get that real quick. I mean, looking at Matthew going back to his previous life when he became a very controversial Category 5 as he did, that's going to be a very, very to be honest, I don't know from what now. I mean, the interesting question is, now that you've very controversially ended the support the Cat 5 drought. Basically, what next is the question for next season. What next? Is there going to be more of them? Is there going to be less? Or is it just going to be none next year? I mean, this is the next. That's the question I'm interested in after Matthew is long gone.
Well, I don't really want to go too far down this road, but let me just tell everyone the 2000s
I've got the warnings
decade.
Up, and these are the warnings.
The 2000s decade have everyone spoiled a bit. Craig.
Yeah. Hurricane warnings remain in effect for the whole of Haiti and near enough the whole eastern side of Cuba until central Cuba, where there's hurricane warnings. Some parts of Dominica, south and north of Dominican Republic. The south of Dominican Republic has a tropical storm warning in effect, and the northern part of Dominican Republic has a tropical storm watch. Jamaica and the whole of Jamaica and a tropical storm warning. That's got a great big question mark over it, and why that's been downgraded. Some islands of the Bahamas have hurricane warnings. and basically the whole of the Bahamas is in a watch or warning at least. Mainly hurricane watches for the rest of the islands, apart from the central Bahamas islands, which are under hurricane warnings. And then afterwards, and like God knows after that. I mean, he could do whatever he'll do anything. But the main area of focus is how hard the impact going to be on Haiti or even Cuba or both. I mean, this is the question. What next?
I think we had a unanimous opinion before about how they downgraded the warning for Jamaica. What's your take on that?
Well, I am rather staggered and astonished in why they've even done that, because there's, in my mind, from what I'm getting, is saying they're putting their foot down very confidently, saying this hurricane ain't gonna hit Jamaica as hurricane force winds. This thing could very well could, and I would have kept.
It just seems a bit foolish to do it for a storm that's exhibiting this kind of behavior, not moving very quickly. That means it's more prone to unscheduled direction changes. It seems a little bit illogical.
Exactly. I mean, that's very this is very, very questionable. I mean, I am physically staggered in why they've done that, and what their reasoning is behind it. I'm sure they've got a very good explanation for why they've done it. I'm pretty sure in why they've got it.
Hmm.
Hang on.
And that sounds like something going on in the background at Craig HQ. It's just Strat at the moment, so I guess any comments at this point?
I would say, in terms of warnings and watches and stuff, I don't really get why they downgraded Jamaica's warnings, especially. Like, if it was still 2 days out, yeah, sure, maybe, or a day out, but this thing's sitting basically right next to the Haiti and Jamaica right now, so I see that as a pretty bad mistake. Otherwise, the rest of the Dominican Republic could be, experiencing more tropical storm conditions than just what the watches and warnings say, especially because has that pretty strong easterly component with it that has had a lot of convection throughout the duration of the storm's life.
I forgot to ask you, by the way, where are you located?
Up in New England right now.
That's right.
That's my residence.
So, near the coast or inland?
I'm on the northern part of Long Island Sound, so coast pretty close, but unless there was like a lot of sea piling up throughout the rest of the sound, I'm pretty good in safety from that.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that Sandy on your picture there?
Yes, actually.
Ah, yes. What did it do at your neck of the woods?
It was a lot more of a windstorm, actually. Most of the rain was, Jersey southward, but we still got hurricane force winds. Most of our town's power was knocked out, and we actually had a bridge collapse in our town as well.
Wow. All right. Well, if anyone has any questions or wants to know what to expect in their location, we'll try to answer you. If it's anywhere north of Florida at the moment, we're going to keep our cards close to our chest. As for Florida, as you saw on the tracking map not long ago, I can't bring that image up myself, unfortunately. I don't know.
Can you share that?
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Oh, here we are. Just one moment. Here we are. There's the latest tracking map from the National Hurricane Center. That's out to 3 days. So the last dot there is the 2 p.m. Thursday position, as they put it down. That's Eastern time. And they've put a major hurricane over. In fact, their track is suggesting a major hurricane passing pretty much right over Nassau, Bahamas. But that is by no means a guarantee or even a likelihood yet, though there is an 84% chance of tropical storm force winds in the Bahamas capital, according to their wind probabilities. Now, a lot of people might be wondering about Florida, who issued a a state of emergency. We'd prefer to call it a state of preparedness because there's
For the whole state.
The whole state no means a likelihood that the storm's going to hit Florida with any particular venom. So if the storm misses and people say, well, they got it wrong again, just remember this stream, because we're not saying that the storm is necessarily going to hit yet. By no means it is certain, and we don't want to make people think that. But we have to tell you that it is a possibility. I wouldn't say it's even a 50% likely possibility yet, probably a bit less than that. So those in Florida should be watching carefully and waiting to see what happens, and we'll probably have a better idea in 1 day, definitely in 2 days, and you should be thinking about preparing, and if the forecast track still looks the same in 2 days' time, preparation would be essential. As for places further north than Florida, we're not going to say much yet. So let's move south. Haiti is in a bad place right now. Hurricane warning for the whole of Haiti, as Craig said earlier, and for Cuba. Haiti and Cuba looking pretty bad right now. Could see Category 4 conditions in both those locations. It's not happening yet, but it will happen maybe 12 hours or so.
I think it's interesting to mention that in terms of Haiti at least, the storm's moving a bit east of north rather than just due north, so I wouldn't be surprised if the eye of Matthew did take a track more over where my mouse is right now rather than just grazing the very tip as well.
Yeah, and I guess that the NHC, they're assuming that the current movement of Matthew is going to continue towards Haiti and then onto Cuba. And then the curve, they say, will begin, but it could happen sooner than that, or it could even happen later.
Yeah. With the visual satellite right now, visible, it's not moving really north. I think it's actually at the last frame, basically at the longitude where they say it'll make landfall on Haiti. So unless this thing stops wobbling or trending a little bit east of north, then you're really going to start seeing this storm kind of glide a little bit closer to this little peninsula on the peninsula, and that kind of throws a crank or something into the whole track.
I can see why they downgraded the warning for Jamaica, but they have to be pretty sure that the storm is going to do what they say it's going to do. And if it was me, I wouldn't be sure enough to downgrade those warnings.
Matthew's been
I'm finally on.
That's Hank. Hank, hello. Good evening.
Hey,
Welcome.
I'm nervous to say the least. For reasons we all understand. Lord. I don't know what else to say.
Oh, well, that's a good start.
Well, it is a good start, but it's the most honest start it can have. This is something that we've been concerned about for the past, 10 days. We didn't know exactly if it was going to go towards Haiti or not, but, still, like, something like this hasn't been seen in quite a while.
We didn't know where it was going to go. To a big degree, we still don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
Well, it's a pretty good certainty this thing's going to keep going north into the Bahamas. But yeah, we haven't seen a storm like this since like Matthew. Since I don't even know. In the last storm that took kind of a similar track was Sandy.
Well, we were talking about this last in the last hour. You can sort of compare it to Sandy a little bit in relation to track, but not intensity. But the best comparison, as Devon said, Hazel, and that isn't a particularly good comparison itself.
I was just about to get there, and what did Hazel caused at least 1,000 deaths? I'm pretty sure. And Sandy, obviously one of the worst hurricanes to ever occur in the Atlantic, not necessarily for what it did in the Caribbean, but for what it did in the Northeast. This storm is probably going to be worse in the Caribbean than it is going to be in the Northeast. at this point at least. We're not entirely sure where it's going to go after the Bahamas still. Devin tells me it's between 600 and 1,000. Okay. So, yeah, that's still a very high death toll.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if it was actually more than that. And although that's a, bad thing to say, you don't want that to happen. You want as little people to get injured as possible.
Exactly.
Based off of the current movement of the storm and its, just destructive nature, along with how much rain it's bringing and
how literally unprepared Haiti is at the best of
times.
Yeah, they're still recovering from that earthquake they had more than 6 years ago in January 2010. And I brought a very good. I was in my update video yesterday. I sounded like I was about to burst out crying. And you know what? I still feel like I'm about to burst out crying because I don't want thousands of lives to be gone. Just because I'm slurring my speech, I know, but just because you live in an underdeveloped country, I don't want that to be the case. But unfortunately, it looks like that's happening.
Yeah, no, Haiti has it's had since Thomas. It's not really had a bad spell, and it was going to come to an end. But you have to say this could end up being the strongest landfall for the country. You have strong landfalls all over the Caribbean, but Haiti, the strongest landfall ever was 145 miles an hour Category 4, and they've only ever had 2 or 3 Category 4 landfalls compared to other places. I mean, neighbouring Dominican Republic has had more than 1 Cat 5 landfall in its long history. Puerto Rico, many other places in the Caribbean have had terrible storms, and Haiti haven't had as many, probably because it's a little bit more secluded there on the western side of the Hispaniola.
That doesn't really mean you had storms like Jean that made landfall in the Dominican Republic, but then they killed 1,000 people in Haiti. Well, you have it doesn't matter if it makes landfall in the country or not. If it makes landfall in the Dominican Republic,
but it does in a way, because it's gonna, if it's that bad after making landfall in a neighbouring country, how much worse would it be actually hitting Haiti itself?
And really thinking, wind isn't the most destructive nature with this storm, at least for Haiti. For other areas, that's a possibility, but for Haiti, no. They're supposed to get over 3 feet or a meter of rain, and especially on the southern Haitian peninsula, and with all the deforestation and lack of information that the people have there, that's going to be an absolutely devastating problem to have.
Draw attention quickly to the imagery that's being shown on the screen share. I'm not sure who's doing it. It's just just take a look at that. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this Dvorak imagery, you can see the grey areas inside those white areas near the centre of the storm. Now those are the most intense parts of the storm. You see that white area in particular has grown substantially in those last few hours, and that's not good news.
I'd like to say, it looked like for a while a secondary eye was forming around, especially in the northern end, but it looks like that upwelling of convection is kind of wrapping in towards the eye instead, rather than anything else.
Wouldn't necessarily be. I wouldn't say it's upwelling necessarily, but I haven't really been looking at Matthew all day because
that kind of burst in generals.
Right, but we've been thinking an eye wall replacement cycle might be coming with the storm, and it really hasn't happened. I guess it was possible one could have happened on Saturday, right after the Category 5 peak, or the quote-unquote Category 5 peak, excuse me. But that's a topic for another time. It's just...
Now, Stephen P. Shaw just posted a contact reference. I'm not sure how helpful it will be, but I'll read it out anyway. He's posted Haiti contact Miss Alta Jean-Baptiste, Directorate of Civil Protection, Rue de la Réunion, Port-au-Prince, Haiti, telephone number 509-228-2537. Now, contacting authorities in Haiti, as far as I can gather looking online, is very difficult because I couldn't find anything. So that might be a valuable contact reference there. I'm not sure. I'm unfamiliar with Haiti, obviously, and of course most people there speak French, so they probably wouldn't understand me. But there's the storm on infrared. Craig, did you want to say something just there?
Yeah, I'm just going to go back to what Hank said during his update and how, we nearly got quite emotional. I don't blame him. I really don't blame him. And I ended up doing that during Winston. Because just realizing that Fiji's defenseless, it's near enough like, it's basically like Haiti. It's defenseless. It can't do anything. Its housing facilities, they're not strong enough. Fiji's, they've been through a lot, but they've never had a Cat 5 landfall in their whole life, and they got one that was annular and the strongest annular cyclone landfall in history. And you'll never probably ever see a track like it for quite a long time. And with Matthew, and as you said, still recovering, and rather shockingly to some people, but it's true that they're still recovering from their 2010 earthquake. I mean,
Yeah.
that country, I mean, Haiti's, in terms, and sad to say, I mean, I don't want to say it, but someone's got it. I mean, I don't think Haiti's going to stand a real good chance. I mean, you'd hope they would, but looking at him, looking at Matthew and the strength that he is, regardless if he's a Cat 2, Cat 3, hell, if he's a low-end Cat 1, I'd still reckon that those houses would be heavily damaged.
It could be a tropical storm and cause a whole lot of damage.
Oh, yeah.
I believe we're joined by some new people. I did just add Orlando and Isaac. I don't know if they're both here.
Hello, I'm here.
That's Orlando.
So, going back to the point I was having earlier, a tropical storm could drop a whole lot of rain. And a storm that doesn't even pass near the island can drop a whole lot of rain. You had Gordon in 1994.
Yep.
A tropical storm passed at least 150 miles away from landfall, still killed 1,200 people. You had Hannah of 2008. That was a hurricane that, didn't make landfall, but it still caused hundreds of deaths. And it's not necessarily, the housing is an issue, yes, but the main issue with Haiti is that all the deforesting on the mountainsides, because, Hispaniola is a very mountainous island, all the deforesting on the mountains, the sides of the mountains is, it's loosened up the soil. So you could get 3 inches of rain, or
a massive landslide.
Yeah, or 10 centimeters of rain, excuse me, and could cause landslides. That's 10 centimeters. Imagine a meter of rain. Imagine what that could do.
A massive landslide and potentially a catastrophic
and that's what
one.
some of the forecasts are saying.
I don't.
Let alone 140 mile per hour plus winds, and that's just including the Category 5 gusts.
Yeah.
The 140 mile per hour winds is really just adding insult to injury for what the system's going to be doing to Haiti.
Exactly. I mean, Haiti, this is near enough going to be an absolute butcher.
I got to tell you what, 2016 has produced a lot of weird systems.
Exactly.
Especially systems that have reached Category 4 or 5 intensity. We've had Cyclone Winston, which hit Fiji as a Cat 5, the first cyclone that I think on record to make landfall in Fiji at that intensity. We had Cyclone Fantala go back and forth and back again over Farquhar Atoll 3 times, 2 of them as a Cat 4 plus. Moving on to the northern hemisphere, we've had, which one was it? Typhoon Meranti taking an unprecedented track, making landfall in Itzbayat in the Philippines with 185 mile per hour winds and pressures underneath 890.
And then you had Napartak.
Yeah.
Napartak, a little more common of a system, but still approached Taiwan at a very weird angle. We've had Typhoon Lion Rock, which kind of went west to the south of Japan and did an entire counterclockwise loop, something that we usually don't see.
I just want to direct attention.
Even here in the Atlantic, we've had Hurricane Hermine, which took an ungodly track, finally became a hurricane, one of the weirdest looking hurricanes I've ever seen in the Gulf of Mexico, making landfall in Florida. You had Hurricane Alex with the earliest recorded landfall in Atlantic hurricane history, making landfall at near hurricane intensity in the Azores. I mean, it's just been weird storm after weird storm after weird storm, not just in the Atlantic, but worldwide.
I just want to draw attention, Devon, to the latest satellite imagery. What's going on with Matthew's eye wall structure now in the northern side?
And that's another thing is, I really don't know what's going on here. I have seen on the radar imagery that the inner eye wall is fading away and an outer eye wall is trying to take its place. So there is definitely an eye wall replacement cycle going on. Whether if it's due to dry air, due to the land interaction, or if there's other things going on within the system that we really don't know or can't tell about because there's no recon anywhere near this system right now. I wouldn't be able to tell you.
So the planes have stopped flying into the storm for the time being.
I'm not concerned because this is the time when you really need them.
Just took off from an island.
One's just taken off.
Yep.
Okay, so we might get news of that in a few hours or 1 hour.
Yeah, is that upper level or is that low level or is it unknown?
Yeah, looking at microwave, yeah, there's definitely something going fishy with the eye. That's definitely an eye roll replacement cycle beginning to start. But you have to remember that this has been happening off and on since it peaked as a 5.
See, that's another thing about 2016. I mean, we saw Moranti. That literally fought an eye wall replacement cycle for 2 days, and before finally doing one.
Yeah.
I mean,
And Matthew never really has had a clearly defined, good-looking eye for its entire lifetime. It's looked like a messy system the entire time. This has got to be one of the messiest Category 4 / maybe Cat 5. I'm not necessarily so inclined to accept that yet, but the storm being as strong as it is, looking as bad as it has, is definitely quite remarkable and testament to just how resilient this system has been in the Caribbean, despite potentially hostile conditions from rather strong wind shear from the north and as you can see here, land interaction from Haiti probably starting to tear the system up here.
And if I'm to add information, I'll just share my screen momentarily. This is the latest visible screen, and that eye is pretty clouded up right now.
Yeah, it's been like that since the quote unquote peak. It's been clouding up and clearing out and clouding up and clearing out. It's on and off.
Yeah.
Since Friday night, it's been like this, basically.
Especially over the last 3 frames, it's really started to suck whatever that little convection burst was right near its center straight into it.
And I just want to point something out real quick. The storm is past Haiti. It is supposed to make a landfall in eastern Cuba. So Haiti is not the only country at risk here. We also have Cuba, the Bahamas, and Jamaica. Now, Jamaica, the system is passing well enough east of you that the effects on the island shouldn't be as much as expected, hence the reason why the hurricane warning was downgraded to a tropical storm.
At the moment, but it seems a little strange that
I'm questioning it.
Yeah, well, the system has been wobbling a lot. It's been going under many, many, many trochadal oscillations, which is basically a fancy word for saying, the system's wobbling around. And that's common with, storms like Matthew's intensity. They tend to wobble a lot just due to, vorticity asymmetries throughout the layers of the storm.
And now we're looking at a map of Haiti. We're looking at a map of Haiti. I don't know whose that is.
Yes, you could see that these mountains, you don't have to go very far inland into the Haiti to find these tall mountains up at least 5,000 feet.
Virtually the whole country is mountainous. Looking at that,
yeah,
in the whole country, yes, that's the thing. But these mountains don't really. They can help to start to weaken the system a little bit, especially if it moves over Dominican Republic. It's going to weaken quite considerably. But if it moves, just over the southern Haitian peninsula, then it's not really going to do all that much because it's not a very big landmass compared to what it could.
I would be careful about that, Hank. I mean,
Well, okay. Well,
this doesn't go as high as the Big Island of Hawaii, but storms don't necessarily like the Big Island of Hawaii either.
okay. I was getting there. Okay, it's just I was getting there, but it doesn't necessarily matter how high these mountains are. It's still gonna the rainfall that's gonna be triggered is gonna be just utterly devastating because
And mudslides.
the mudslides and the landslides caused by this. Because if you see this, the capital Port-au-Prince is right on the downslope of a mountain range, and you could get. Yes, Matthew's rotation would put most of the rain on on the southern side of that, but still, it doesn't necessarily matter because there's still going to be a lot of rain. That if you get at least 5 inches of rain, you could get some landslides into downtown Port-au-Prince, and you could see some pretty big devastation. And considering they're still recovering from the earthquake of 2010 and other things that have been going on in the country, it's just going to put massive insult to injury. I mean, massive. You've seen storms do some very bad things due to flooding. Very good example would be Typhoon Nina of, I believe, 1975.
Oh dear.
200 some thousand deaths because of the breakage of a dam in central China.
Exactly. The Banquao Dam, just because the system kind of meandered around the area and dropped an incredible amount of rain, causing the whole dam to break, killing hundreds of thousands of people. Somewhere, I think last I checked was 229,000 people. I think so. That's just that's an extreme. We're probably not going to see that many deaths, nowhere near, but still, it could be a very historic hurricane.
I just want to steer us onto something else. We've obviously got viewers coming in and out, and a lot of them want to know about Florida and the possibilities of the storm affecting Florida.
Well, it's still too early to say. Now, I will say this. Today, the models have been trending a little bit closer to the west. And a little bit closer to the west means a little bit closer to the Carolinas. I think Florida is still in the western edge of this cone. Yes. But is a landfall possible in Florida? Believe it or not, we still don't know. The system has been it's your typical October storm. It's the phrase here over and over and over again. We just don't know. Because these storms in October are very unpredictable. We saw last year with Joaquin, that system could have gone virtually anywhere in the Western Atlantic.
Well, that is an interesting one to pick up because the models at one point were saying it would hit the Carolinas as a Category 3.
Yes, and it basically moved much closer to Bermuda than it did Hatteras. But it looks like the Euro, which said it would go closer to Bermuda, is now saying that that Matthew will move closer to the Carolinas.
And the ECMWF and GFS have actually been in rather good agreement with this system, at least ever since about 2 or 3 days ago. They've pretty much been saying the same thing.
Which is never a good sign, because those are basically the two main global models.
The only thing that's been different about the two is that the GFS takes it up the East Coast, and the ECMWF takes it out to Bermuda, after following basically the same cone after 5 days.
Yeah, but it's still...
I think it's interesting to mention with the 3-day cone, at least, that it really seems like Matthew right now is actually further east than where they say it will be or where it will make a landfall. So with regards to the 3-day cone, they might actually shift that a little bit east.
Yeah, Matthew's been traveling just east of north now for the past 2 or 3 hours.
And with its
this thing's jogging much further to the east than the models initially intended it to. Of course, this thing could swing back to the west as it approaches the mountains of Haiti. But whenever tropical cyclones approach mountainous terrain like this, like Haiti, Taiwan, Big Island of Hawaii, the models are very terrible at picking up land interactions and storms. For example, Typhoon Megi that storm jogged much further north than any model expected it. They were expecting it to make landfall on the southern half of the island, and it went all the way up to the northern half of it. So, I mean,
Talk us through these models here.
Yeah,
It's very hard to decide what a storm will do when it comes up to these mountains, especially on the Tiburon Peninsula here, that can go up to 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 feet.
hmm
Yeah.
And you see, I have not the intensity guys, the computer models up, and you pretty tight agreement that this thing is going to either clip or make a landfall on the western edge of the southern Haitian Peninsula. I think it's pronounced what Dev, you said it, you said the name earlier. What was it again? Tiburon. Okay. And then the eastern
Tiburon.
Tiburon. Okay, whatever. Tiburon. That's not important. But and then landfall on eastern tip of Cuba, and then north, and eventually northwest. Looks like the main consensus is offshore, eastern Florida, but take that with a grain of salt as well.
And I have to say, I was looking at the NHC, and obviously you can see it reflected in the models as well. Nassau, the capital of the Bahamas, could have Category 3 conditions.
That's another thing. I just I completely forgot about Nassau until now. That's not good.
No.
And then past Thursday, take it with, as I said earlier, a grain of salt, because it could end up. Yes, this thing is going to affect the East Coast no matter what, directly or indirectly. But this storm could still, like some of these models are saying, move out to sea, or like actually now a good cluster of them say make landfall in North Carolina and then up into New England, which is obviously just going to put even more insult to injury with this storm after what could be some catastrophic damage down in the Caribbean. Don't mean to sound alarmist, but it's unfortunately the truth of what could happen.
Yeah,
but then you see that any storm that goes up the East Coast, that is because Matthew's wind spill is going to expand quite a bit because
that is a key. That Matthew's wind field, after making landfall in Haiti and Cuba, even though it's going to weaken, all of its energy is going to disperse outward, and its wind field's going to increase drastically. So that is a really good point there to make.
The way that I have to know about that in particular is that once it goes over the mountains, at least part of it, I feel like one side of the storm will get a little bit of dry air and stuff into that, and that really helps to kind of just jet out the size of the wind field in general.
Pretty much.
Examples in that regard, at least, the southern end of Sandy opened up completely when the wind field exploded in size.
Yeah. Let's try to stay away from Sandy, because Sandy is obviously
they're completely different, but I'm just referring to the wind field expansion in general.
I don't think it's going to be very much like Sandy-esque wind field expansion, because Sandy was a very large storm to begin with in the Caribbean.
Gets to Sandy,
and this thing is nowhere near the size of Sandy. So
Sandy obviously being the largest storm in the history of the Atlantic by wind field. And let's not go to the Sandy comparisons, because Sandy is
Well, as of right now, there's really only 2 storms that I know of, and if anybody else, I should say 3 storms, I guess. There's really 3 storms that I know of, and if anybody else wants to put some forward, go right ahead.
Hazel?
And tell me, but the only 3 storms that I really have to compare to this one is obviously Hurricane Hazel of 1954, making landfall in Haiti as a Cat 2, weakening to a Cat 1 over Haiti, and then shooting back up to South Carolina, North Carolina border, where it rapidly intensified to a strong Cat 4, made landfall, rest is history. And there's also Hurricane Tomas of 2010. I don't really think that needs any explanation for Haiti, but basically it was a much weaker system. Again, borderline tropical storm, Cat 1, maybe got to Cat 2. I don't know if it was Cat 2 while it was passing Haiti. Passed well to the west of Haiti. Not well to the west of Haiti, but passed enough to the west. Caused a lot of damage, a lot of death within the island. And then there was also an unnamed hurricane in 1921, which took an oddly similar track, although made landfall on the eastern Dominican Republic, and then went out to sea. So those are basically there are three analogs that I can think of, and none of them are anywhere close to the same beast as Hurricane Matthew is right now.
This could be a pretty bad storm for Haiti overall, due to the intensity already and the rain that is expected. And honestly, all it takes is just one landslide in a populated area to just cause disaster and destruction for everywhere in that area.
Yeah.
Also, in the visible satellite, it looks like there's a burst of convection moving in towards the southern Haitian peninsula right now. And also, it does look like a recon plane that's going to be dropping drop zones and other measuring equipment into the storm is starting to get pretty close to it as well. It's off of southern tip of Haiti now as well.
Yeah. I just want, since we're on the topic of, the models are saying, let's actually go through the models right now, because
ATZ should be coming out pretty soon, actually.
Yeah, we have 5 minutes left in this hour, so why not? Let's start off with the HWRF, which has arguably been the best model so far this year, especially in the Westpac. And it says that landfall in North Carolina, again, take this with a grain of salt, and then looks like it would move towards New England, unfortunately. GFDL says that Matthew will, take the general track everyone's been expecting, a little bit closer to Florida by the looks of it, and kind of landfall near Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
GFS is saying that Matthew will move towards, same general direction where we've been expecting. Pretty similar track to GFDL until the final part where it doesn't make a landfall in South Carolina. Instead, it keeps on moving.
It does kind of turn back up towards Cape Cod and then Maine.
It becomes a massive extratropical system over Canada.
Yeah. I think something odd. If you go to the global, the 12Z NavGem actually takes this through Florida into the Gulf of Mexico.
I'll get there, Strat.
Yeah.
So, not GFDL. CMC is saying similar thing to GFS, unfortunately. Let's go to the ECMWF. Let's just, what should we do? Let's just go to the entire North Atlantic. Just pay attention to this part of your screen right here. Shows Matthew not making a landfall, staying offshore, but moving out through the Central Atlantic and becoming, as we said earlier, huge in Winfield. And last but not least, NavGem, as Strat said earlier, he's mentioned something about the Gulf of Mexico.
One of them, I'm not sure if it's me, the 6-hour precip rate kind of moves it through Florida and then up.
That's the NavGem model there, western coast of Florida. My goodness.
Yeah.
That's an interesting area. That'd be, if this happens, that'd be the third storm to affect this big bend of Florida, which is quite remarkable, actually. I don't really normally see.
Was calling a storm, though.
Let's save that one for another time.
Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, that's what the models are saying. Yeah, recon is not nearly
There's a plane on the way, we're led to believe.
There's a plane on the way.
Matthew looking very wrecked.
Oh dear.
If you look at chocolate tidbits,
potentially good news here is it looks like it's either on the downtrend or a new eye may be coming out. I don't really know which one is the more likely scenario right now.
Now, Devon,
but the inner eye is definitely fading.
A lot of people might struggle to understand how you can come to that conclusion. Obviously, they're not familiar with the imagery. What do we look for here when determining a storm's intensity?
Basically, this imagery is very specially colored to look at actual structure within a system. What you'll see here is that you have these white cloud tops, and those are very cold, minus 70 minus 70 degrees Celsius cloud tops. And the lighter gray there, that's around minus 75, and the dark gray is around minus 80. It's not exactly that, but it's around that. And the blacks are like minus 60s-ish. And basically, what you're going to see here is if you see random cuts of warmer clouds within the colder ones, that basically means, especially when it's around an eye, that basically means that the eye is going away and potentially something else is trying to replace it. And you can definitely see 2, maybe even 3 very pronounced weaknesses within the system. I don't know if it's trying to reorganize itself just before Haiti landfall. That would be a bad day. Or if it's just weakening due to the land interaction. Hopefully that one.
Well, I'm not. Well, it doesn't relieve me all that much because this is still going to be a very significant storm as it moves towards Haiti, no matter the intensity.
It's going to be a significant storm regardless. I agree with you, Hank. And especially since you can see the cold cloud tops, the blacks, the whites, the grays, they're getting larger, which means the radius of maximum winds is expanding, and that usually means more rain, more surge. It's just not a good day.
Well, we'll be talking more about Matthew in our continuing coverage here on Force 13 Live. We're going to take a short break, only a few minutes. We'll be back at the top of the next hour. Stay tuned.